we go. The Assassin's Creed movie. Awesome, let's get into it.
I'm here to save myself.
Huh? Hey, whatever. Oh man, update 17 gig, 11 hours. Maybe if I just go across here and pause it, play it again, and yes, 20 minutes. Thankfully, the Assassin's Creed movie does not suffer from those unintentional glitches and bugs and all that sort of stuff that the game has suffered from in its past. Hello to everyone, I am Lucas Aurelius from Aussie Games Express, and today I'm going to be taking a look and a short little review of the Assassin's Creed movie. Now, just to start up a bit, to let you know, I am a big fan of the Assassin's Creed video game series. Now, I have played and finished all games up to and with respect of Unity and Syndicate. I was a little bit let down with Unity with the faulted sort of release and never really went back to it, which then made me not that interested to go and play Syndicate, but I will get around to those games one day. So yesterday I went and saw the Assassin's Creed movie starring Michael Fassbender, and my good friend Roy Boy attended with me. We had a little bit of a chat after the movie with our thoughts. Our thoughts of the movie were quite similar, however I think I had a little bit more of a positive outlook at the movie as a whole. Now, I've got a couple of things that I wanted to run through. I'm not going to spoil any major plot points in the movie, but I'm just going to go through a few things that I liked and a few things that I didn't like and give you a bit of an overall understanding of my opinion of the Assassin's Creed movie. So starting off the movie, well, it's your typical Assassins versus Templars setting, and with the Animus taking us back to 1492 in Spain. Now, our main character is Michael Fassbender, and he plays a character named as Cal or Callum, and he is of course an ancestor, a long ancestor of a character called, and I have to read this because it's a hard name, Aguilar de Neja. It's set in Spain during the Spanish Inquisition, and it is your typical Assassin's Creed story. When we're going back to the original Assassin's Creed with Altair, it's basically the quest for the Templars that wish to find the Apple of Eden. They want to use it for bad because they're the baddies, and you got the Assassins who are trying to find the Apple of Eden to keep it from the Templars because they're the good guys. So it's very easy from the outlook, from the outset of the movie, to see that it's the Assassins versus the Templars, good versus evil, both with the same agenda with different purposes and reasons for doing what they're doing. So the idea of the Apple of Eden, if you're unaware, is it holds the key to mankind's very first sin or wrongdoing or what have you, which is defiance. It was Adam and Eve, where Adam ate the forbidden apple, hence the name, the Apple of Eden. If you are a fan of the video game series and you've played a few of them, then this movie is going to make a lot of sense to you, and just from the outlook, it's going to be clear as to what it's all about. The unfortunate thing about it with the story and how it works is that it's very much the Assassin's Creed game story, sort of just retold with a different character. It doesn't really venture into too much new territory. So the story, you're going to watch it thinking, I kind of already know this story. So even though I'm not going to spoil anything for you, there's really not much to spoil in there for you. Early on in the movie, you get introduced to the company known as Abstergo, or Abstergo, however you want to pronounce it. And the representation of Abstergo is actually quite good. It shows the over-modernized decor in their facility, which is very sterile, kind of feels like a dentist or a doctor's office or something like that. But that's kind of what they were going for, and it looks good. And there's one thing that I want to specifically say about the Assassin's Creed movie. It definitely, if this makes sense, it definitely feels like an Assassin's Creed movie. It definitely has the Assassin's Creed DNA in there, and you can tell by Ubisoft's input into the movie that that was a key focus of the overall arc of the movie. Right, the next thing I want to mention is the Animus itself. For those familiar with the video game Animus, it was simply like a bed, and our subject would lay in the bed and it would come over the head, and it would be, you'd be entering the Animus that way, just by laying in a bed. This time around, there's been a lot of conjecture around the whole fact that it was a waist-mounted rig, like a big arm, that would move the character around in real time. Now, there's been a lot of people disagreeing with this, how it's changed from what the game was like. Instead of laying in a bed, it's up in the air. And I was like that at first. I thought, oh, that's a little bit silly. Why are they changing the Animus like that? But after watching the movie for a while, it started making a lot of sense as to why they made the Animus this way. And it actually got me thinking, why wasn't it like this in the games? Because it makes a hell of a lot of sense. When you're in the Animus, there's a lot to do with synchronization. And of course, in the games, when you die, you desynchronize, and you have to start again by synchronizing back up in the Animus and continuing on the way. Now, what the big arm does is kind of like a massive VR treadmill simulator thing, where if you jump in the Animus, then the arm connected to you will jump and lift you up into the air and move you around to synchronize your movements with your character in the Animus. So it makes a lot of sense with synchronization to get it right, so you can stay into the Animus for a lot longer, because you're going to be a lot more physically synchronized in real time as you are in the Animus with your character. So it made a lot of sense there, and I thought it actually did quite well with the cinematics of the whole experience there. Now, with the actual story itself, because movies only typically go between that 90 minutes, maybe two hour mark, it felt like they've sort of crammed in the storyline of the Apple of Eden, from finding out what it is, to getting into the Animus, to searching for it and saving the world. It's like they've crammed that into a 2-hour movie, where originally it was like 3 or 4 games. Now, one game you might be playing a storyline for around 13 hours. This was only just under 2 hours, and it just felt like a lot of it was crammed in without too much sort of background story, which sort of may hurt people who aren't fans of the video game series and haven't played the games, because it can be a little bit confusing. And Roy Boy and I discussed that for those that haven't played the games or aren't fans of the series, will probably watch this movie thinking, God, what is this? What is going on? Why? This is strange. I think one of the biggest thing is with the movie is that it was more of a setup for a series of movies. I know Ubisoft's main focus when they create something is not to create standalone things, whether it be video games. I believe it's bleeding into their movies as well, is they want to create a franchise. They want to create something that they can repeat over and over and over, whether it be a yearly or bi-yearly thing. So that's probably why they've crammed in this sort of backstory into the 2 hours rather than stretching it out, because they want to get it all set up to then move on and make more Assassin's Creed movies, rather than having to explain everything throughout every single movie. Now, another disappointing thing is that a lot of the time in your video game Assassin's Creed is you are spending your time within the Animus. And that's the exciting part, because that's where you've got all the history, you've got all the parkour, you've got all the fighting and all that sort of stuff. The Assassin's Creed movie essentially spends about 80% of the time outside of the Animus with Michael Fassbender's character Cal and his struggles with Abstergo, the Animus, and other stories which I won't delve into because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's a little bit of a shame, because it looks absolutely beautiful and brilliant when they do enter the Animus and enter Spain in 1492. But it's minimal. You don't really get to do that very much, which is a shame. There's one thing I can say about the visuals though. Spain was very hazy at the time, apparently, in 1492. Now, I'm no history buff, so I can't really retort this and say that it wasn't like that. But for someone like me, if I'm learning from this game, Spain in 1492 was covered in a perpetual dust storm because there is dust, haze everywhere. But it's just not enough of it. I wanted more of that Spanish fighting from back in the day. I wanted more of the assassinations. I wanted more stealth, but there just wasn't that much of it. Now, the last thing I'm going to really touch on here before I give you a bit of an overall of my experience with the Assassin's Creed movie is the leap of faith. Now, you've probably seen a lot of this in the movie trailers and behind the scenes videos that were released before the movie was released about the leap of faith and how they did it in real life. It wasn't just all CG and special effects and all that. But the thing is, you never really get to see a full, proper leap of faith. And you'll see what I mean when you see the movie, but there are things that they put into play. I don't know if they stuffed up the footage and didn't have all the footage and couldn't use it for whatever reason, but you don't see a proper one. That's probably the most disappointing thing. Roy Boy said to me he was really looking forward to seeing somebody land in a bale of hay and get up and walk away. And I suggested that maybe they didn't do that because that's a load of shit and there's no way that that could actually happen. But some form of, I don't know, retelling of how that could possibly happen would have been good. But yeah, you don't actually get to see a full leap of faith. So you'll see when you see it. And if you have seen it, let me know what you think of how they did represent the leap of faith. Okay, so all in all, the Assassin's Creed movie. Now, once it finished, the credits started to roll. Roy Boy looked over me and said, "What did you think?" My response to him was, "Brilliant. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I loved the art. I loved the characters. I loved the acting. I loved the actors that were in it. There was, what's his name? Jeremy Irons was in there too. He was pretty good in it. A couple of actors that familiar faces but don't really know their names, those kind of people. And obviously the main character there, Michael Fassbender, did a really good job. So it was a fantastic movie. It probably was crammed into a movie that was too short. I would have loved another hour if it was a 3-hour film, and I don't even like 3-hour films. But with this one, I would have liked it to be a little bit more spread out and a little bit more action. But I did. I loved the movie. I enjoyed it, and I will definitely look forward to the sequels to the Assassin's Creed movie. I think they'll do well. And it'd be interesting to see where they go, what direction, if they take any further sort of links to the actual games, or if they will go off in their own new directions. That'd be interesting to see. But I loved it. I thought it was great. If you're a fan of the Assassin's Creed series, you gotta go and see it. Whether you see it at the movies or get it and watch it at home, whatever, but you gotta see it. It is a must-see movie. It was not terrible. It was far from terrible, but it wasn't perfect either. It wasn't something that you would go, "Oh, god damn, that was fantastic." But for me personally, I loved the detail that they did manage to get in there, and I loved the overall result of the Assassin's Creed movie. So if you've seen it, please leave some comments below. Let me know what you thought. If you haven't seen it, let me know what you're thinking of and the reasons why maybe you haven't seen it as yet. Maybe a little sort of skeptical. So I leave you with that, with my video game movie review for Assassin's Creed the movie. And I leave you with one last thing, and that is Requiescat in pace. See you next time.